Okay, it's 6:03 on March 16th, and I'd like to call the Port of Newport First Budget Committee meeting to order for fiscal year ending 2022. Um, I will now hand it over to Paula for introductions.
Well, hello everybody, welcome. And I first of all want to thank the commissioners as well as the freeholders for participating, and really appreciate your time in this beautiful evening. And so as I'm just gonna try to go through the budget message here quick. You all got copies, but just for the general public.
Paula, you need to select the budget chair first.
Oh, yes. And I was actually didn't see that on the agenda. Next time we should just put it on the agenda.
Okay, so that is the next item on the agenda. The selection of the Budget Committee Chair. Do I hear any nominees?
Oh, that's right.
Last year, I believe it was Jeff. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And he did a really good job.
How about this? I'd like to nominate Mark Farley for chair of the Budget Committee.
Second.
Okay, second, no problem. All in favor?
Wait a minute. What just happened?
Yeah, you were the last one. You were the last one in the room, Mark.
You're the last one. That's what happens.
Fine.
You'll do fine, Mark, and it's great to have one of the freeholders be the.
Okay, great. As long as we celebrate the freeholder in this, that's excellent.
Well, it's now your meeting, Mark.
All right. I'm what?
It's your meeting.
Oh.
That's right. Jim is passing that on to you now.
Seriously, it's my meeting now?
Yep.
All right. So we just threw Mark Farley under the bus. All right, we got that over part 3. So how would you like to read the budget message, Paula?
Well, thank you. I would love to do that. And I already welcome everybody and thank everybody. So I would just move on. As you know, we still have a fair amount of infrastructure that we're still working on trying to complete for this year. I believe we should be able to complete for the current budget year. And that includes the Port Dock 5 Pier as well as the South Beach Marina load centers. As you recall, we're originally going to do just one. We're going to do this in 3 years, and we decided to combine everything and borrow some funds from the NOAA reserves and go ahead and just get it all done this year. Things are moving along. As we're looking forward, we also got to look at some of the things that happened, such as losses that we had. We lost 66 feet of our Port Dock 7, and we also just recently found out that we have to remove this one little building at 343 Southeast Bay Boulevard, and that is the old Captain Real little quarters there. Unfortunately, that's due to the no stability on the pilings. So this can be a liability if we leave it up. As a matter of fact, the city told us to remove or fix it. To fix it, it's just impossible to do it this year, or would not be advantageous financially to do it anyway. But we'll be looking into what we'll do next with this property. But meanwhile, we do have to take into consideration some of the revenues that we lose by not having 2 spots at the Port Dock 7 that we lose, as well as this property that we no longer can rent. We're still seeing a little bit of COVID hanging around, that mostly on the service side of the commercial marina. It hasn't really done much for the moored side because everybody still got to put their boats someplace. But because the fishermen haven't been out there and fishing as much as they normally do, the services have been a little bit slow, and usually there's a bit of revenue on that end. We foresee that changing a little bit in this coming year. And on the recreational side, things are actually looking quite well. I think everybody got the traveling bug and they couldn't go anywhere, so they bought RVs. And so everybody's been out and about, and you pretty much see license plates from everywhere if you wander around. And they're all out at our RV park. And that same thing applies for the marina. People, as much as people may complain a bit about the raising prices, we barely have any spot to spare there. So things are busy. And we have already gone through some prioritization for infrastructure projects on March 2nd. And we are actually moving forward with some of those projects now here in our lists. And let's see here. So we will have a slight less money to work with starting here on this next fiscal year for the general fund, operating fund. And mostly is that because we finally getting to spend the $1.2 million that we've been putting aside for the Port Dock 5 pier. So last year we didn't spend that money as we expected. Well, this year we are. So, and we also obviously are, doing a three in one project that we're budget for later. So that pretty much shows that reflects it in our general operating fund there. But if you look at overall in our budget, we're still looking quite good. Things are picking up, and I think, and I would say this is not just by increasing fees. I think there's been a lot of efficiencies created by our great staff, Mark and his team and Aaron and his team. They all have been really looking at the efficiencies at the port and how to better do things and save monies along the way. And I gotta say, we really they have come through in several different places. There's so many things that I wouldn't even be able to, recite what those are right now, but there's been several things throughout the years. There's always some good ideas coming up. And we'll continue looking at that, and we will do that in looking at our strategic plan as we move forward, because the concept is to keep in mind the strategic business plan that we just finished a couple of years ago. And if you go down that list, the huge list that was 34 million or whatever we had there, it's slowly chipping away, and we will continue trying to do that. You already approved the commissioners anyway had approved the rates for the fiscal year 2021 2022. So those new rates, it's also been reflected in what you see in this budget. And then for transparency, we have listed all the port revenues and expenses and by fund. So as you can see, there's several different funds. And Mark did a great job reorganizing this, because in the beginning, when we came along, both he and I, it was a little bit difficult sometimes to understand where things were. Now I think it's quite organized by administrative, South Beach Commercial Marina International Terminal, and and you know, we have almost like sub accounts under all of those that we can play around as needed, but those are easier to be reflected. And let's see here. He also listed that we will be paying off a small loan. There's no point when a loan gets so low that we have to worry about continue doing that. We have some funds that we should be able to go ahead and pay that, since we're paying 6% in interest. Interest is low right now. That 6% seems like real high, which is interesting. In the past, 6% was actually low, but not anymore. So we don't want to pay that. And besides the infrastructure, the capital expenditures that we will have, there are also some professional fees that we are budgeting for. So as you know, we talk a lot about rebuilding Port Dock 7, but we got a plan for that first. So that will be a professional fee. And we also have this major project that we're hopefully entering with the Army Corps, and that's for, again, the feasibility study for dredging the commercial marina. That's a big ticket item there. Although it's gotten lower than we originally anticipated. I think originally we're talking about 950 or so. I believe we're down to close to 750. So it should be a little better than we expected. We definitely need to look into revamping our financial system. I feel for Mark. He has to work through so many spreadsheets because what we have, it just doesn't cut. You know, it's just not very efficient. So we're looking into redoing that, and with that comes efficiency, and really should actually save money for the port in the long run. And we talk also about reevaluating some of our assets, you know, making sure that we are planning ahead and not trying to catch up with maintenance, but knowing what we need to do. And we, because we have an EDA grant, we also have to do an audit for that. And if everything goes accordingly here, we'll try to continue working with the grant writer. I think they have been helping, and so far they have already gotten us a grant, and we're probably looking to getting another one here just around the corner, hopefully. And there is also apparently some Travel Oregon grant that just came up today. We're hoping to apply for that and maybe get that RVNX redesign planning finally done. So there's a lot of work, a lot of things on the consulting side. So this year is our year to really try to plan, and hopefully next year we'll have our plans and we'll go after the big ticket item in trying to build things. So those are the type of things we're looking to it. Besides that, we still, this year we did some engineering, or doing some engineering for Port Dock 3 and 5 electrical upgrades. Next year we're hoping to actually do the work sometime in September. There's also definitely some major maintenance needed at Port Dock 3 and 5, so we'll try to do that. And in order to avoid wetlands, we're also want to do some grading at the 9 acres we have at the international terminal, and somewhat make it where it's usable. If we get a customer, you know, we may not go through and do a major pavement, but we may be able to actually at least get some preparation. And the procurement for properties that we talk about it is we're trying to finalize with the Army Corps. If you recall, there's a property that is next to Rogue that we thought it was ports, but apparently it's the Army Corps. So we really need to see about purchasing that. It should not be that much, but it still needs to be done. And a few other replacements out at South Beach we need to do. And you know, as I said before, this all aligned with our strategic plan. And this is the recommendation from the staff. And just remember that if we decide, we change our minds later, we can only go up to 10% over what the budget established. Otherwise, we have to bring it back for an amendment. So with that, again, I want to thank everyone, especially including the staff and Mark for really working hard on getting this budget done. That's my message.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks, Paula. So, Mark, would you like to guide us through the proposed budget, which I believe starts on page 13?
It does start on page 13. And first of all, Jeff, thank you for looking over that debt schedule. So I may be revising the statement of indebtedness. Really doesn't have a lot to do with the budget, other than it's telling Department of Revenue how much debt we have. That's all it's doing. What's important there is the payment structure that's included in our budget. But again, thank you, Jeff. I'll take a look at that tomorrow. Make sure we have the right numbers there at the beginning balances. We can start out. So we have so the first page on 13 is an overview of the budget. It's the NOAA, it's the general operating fund, facilities maintenance, capital fund, and NOAA capital fund, all in one. You might ask what beginning fund balance or net working capital is. Net working capital is what we use. Net working capital is current assets minus current liabilities, just to give you an idea of the calculation. So it's an estimation based on what we think we're going to spend by year end, what we're going to receive by year end, to give me the balance. The FTE is staying steady year to year, as you can see, noted in financial summary requirements and full-time equivalents. Last year we had 28.8. This year we have 28.7. It's the same. So now we'll move into each fund just to take a look at it. Facilities Maintenance Reserve Fund, again, accrual basis working capital. We start with 265. We'll need a total resources of 365, 334, and the requirements match the resources, which is a state requirement. We've indicated a transfer out to general operating fund to help cover some of our projects that are going forward. This is really a fund that we maintained in order to transfer money back into the general operating fund to cover some major expenses. Part of this expense in this fund would be to upgrade the electrical on port docks 3 and 5. That's what that transfer is for. I also have a transfer in from general operating fund, because if we need to transfer money in there, I need to have that built in. I can't just do it. Construction fund. Start out with 30,452. Even though it's working capital, cash is all we have in that account. Loan proceeds, if the commission were to decide to build a new facility, this is where the loan funds would come into, and they'd be transferred into general operating fund when we needed them. So you'll see the requirements, transfer out, GOF, that is what that is for. The next page is NOAA Capital Maintenance Fund. We start out with 1.435 million. It's not what the fund is today. We are going to lend out a portion of this fund to fund the electrical load centers in South Beach. You'll see a transfer in of 206,000. That is the loan that we made. Another transfer in of 170, that will be from NOAA to build this up to 1.86. Our goal will get this back is to get this back to 2.1 million. Our transfers out are to NOAA if we need them. Because we're doing a large dredging project this year, I want to have that in there just to be safe. So we can keep our reserves in the NOAA fund. So it balances out. Oh, it doesn't balance out. This got out of balance, so I will have to correct this one because it should be 1.826, 523 or 1800782. So there's an imbalance there, and we'll have to reduce. That doesn't add up. So there's an error there. That's what I'll say.
Mark, that's just a calculation error.
That's a calculation error. Okay, that's what I thought. So I'll look at that though and make sure it is correct. Okay. Sorry about that. You're going to see the resources on page 17, starting with net working capital, interest, transfers in construction fund, transfers in facilities maintenance for a total intra-fund transfers, permits and MISC. And what's nice here is you can look at actuals for 2 years, what we budgeted for this year, and what were proposed. So the idea is you look at those years and say, is something out of line? And in this case, everything seems to be in line to me. The one thing that is not in here yet, because we don't know it, and revenues are less critical in some ways than expenditures, are the Pac Wave project that will be starting in this year. And we're expecting, Aaron, do you have any clue what we might expect yet?
I don't. I'd hate to give you a ballpark figure because we don't even know for sure. Of the people that have proposed, there's such a wide variety of methods that I don't think that's why we kind of avoided projecting anything here, because we don't know for sure what we're going to be able to bring in. But I'm certain that there will be something that comes to port as a result of the construction of the Pac Wave test sites offshore Newport.
Just out of curiosity, what are they paying you to do?
So the construction phase will involve cable laying. Assuming that the contractor is going to use the terminal, they'll have to bring the cables into the terminal, and then they'll have to prepare whatever construction vessel or barge they're going to use offshore at the terminal, more than likely, and then they'll need to load that cable onto that vessel and then take it offshore, and that'll involve a number of trips over the course of the summer. So some combination of that stuff. There, as I understand, there is a proposal that may avoid a lot of that. So you just have to wait and see how it comes out.
Yeah, thanks.
If I may add, one of the issues is like we only had a couple of the folks that were interested in bidding on the project talking to us, and we understand there's few others that didn't talk to us. So right there shows that we don't know what they propose to use of the port, at this point. And even the two folks that talk to us have different ways of doing things. So it becomes impossible for us to really budget those revenues because we don't know how much or how little. Some of them may have additional use from barges to barges versus the terminal, and some, so there are a lot of different things, and it's impossible at this point.
So yeah, if we had it, we'd include it. We just don't have enough information right now. But it's good for the committee to know that. In all, the total resources here are going to be 11.4 million approximately. That's assuming a lot of things, of course. So we shall see. Next, we'll move to the page 19, which is the NOAA lease fund, which we have working capital of 3.9 million, lease revenue of 2.6, with a total resources of 7,334,245. And from there, we move to page 20, which is the general operating fund. The state also calls this unallocated. And it is the only page by state law I'm allowed to put certain things in, such as debt payments, and debt service, and transfers and contingencies. So that's why this is so long. What is nice is you get to see all debt service payments on one single page, so you know exactly what they are. We put an operating contingency of 488,000 on this page and restricted funds of 1.2 million. What that means is we have no ability to spend that money during this fiscal year. It's also called unappropriated ending fund balance. And that's on line 91, if you're looking for it. Are there any questions on this page? Because this is a big page. Give people a chance to look at it.
Mark, I had a question on the administration. I know the PERS gets reassessed every few years. Are we coming on to another PERS assessment?
And that's a great question, because Jeff asked that earlier, and I pulled up all the data on it. He asked that earlier in an email to me. This is the year we've been reevaluated. Our PERS went up substantially, and I'm just looking for that number. So I sent to Jeff, it went up to, the IDP went up to like 19%, and the tier 1 and 2 went up as well, which greatly increased our PERS withholding for the year. They're anticipated to increase through 2029, and then they'll start decreasing the rates. Yeah, I know. So at least I have a projection that will be stored with the budget, so we'll know what they're projecting for us in future years.
And how many tier 1 employees do we still have on staff?
Tier 1 and tier 2, we have 3.
Okay, thanks.
Mark, on line 23, bad debt expense. Where does something like that come from?
Well, what we do is, as we have people that just don't pay us.
Okay, got it. I was wondering if it was that simple.
It is that simple, you know. We make every attempt to collect money. I've really promoted an aggressive.
You don't need to go any further. That totally explains it.
That's just what it is.
Great, thank you.
Refuse to pay us, and we end up with their boats in most cases.
This is Rex here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I had a question right below the PERS is health insurance, and that looks like that number jumped up significantly also. And then also down under materials and services, professional services, there seems to be a pretty large increase there too. Can you enlighten us on those?
Yeah, I can. Recall that health insurance, you're going to see this throughout the document. The first 2 columns are actually actuals. So you'll see actuals for second year preceding, actual for first year preceding. Then you're going to see adopted budget and proposed budget. So when I looked into that, the actuals for those first two preceding years were substantially below the budget. The adopted budget versus the this year, it's still increased, but what we're doing is we're budgeting for our HRA expense. The HRA, so our health insurance has a $5,000 deductible. Under the HRA plan, we've agreed that the first $1,000 of that deductible is the employee's responsibility. The next $3,500 is the port's responsibility, and the last $500 is the employee's responsibility. We've not budgeted for that, and we are budgeting for it because we've had it occur. So, you know, if I had to budget for 25, 26 employees for that $3,500, it would be $90,000. The reality is we're not going to have that. We may have one or two employees do that. So I'm budgeting a portion of money to cover that cost in case we do in fact have to pay that out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what about the professional services?
So that
450,000 versus.
a lot of items. I don't have my spreadsheet on that. And you're going to see it throughout. There are certain projects that are not capital projects. Let's take, for instance, the dredging of a commercial marina or the feasibility study, not the actual dredging, but the feasibility study for the commercial marina. That feasibility study is actually planning dollars. And that is where you will find that type of expense. So, you know, that's a $300,000 expenditure.
If I may, Mark, in my introduction, I did mention a list of different projects. So if you do look at what I read earlier, we do have a list of a few big ticket item projects that are not capital and that would fall into that service.
And I can tell you very specifically, and excuse me as I look strangely at the screen, I'm pulling up the actual document right now. And what is in that document? What is in? So in the administrative budget, there it is. So financial software for 175,000. That is, it's a software as a service. Because it's software as a service, we can't capitalize it. And so it has to be included in that budget. Additional audit cost, legal cost, communications, grant writing, project manager, ERP consultant, and an asset condition assessment are all included in that budget.
Okay.
I listed them out so I know them.
So this is so Mark, this is a question related to this. So this is a good example of professional services. In fact, so you look at the big, I think what people notice is the big increases, right? They're wondering, well, what's causing that?
Mm-hmm.
And you just had to note what it is. Is there any way to make this interactive so if we clicked on it, we could see what the kind of actual categories are so we can see what they are? Or are these just standardized forms and we can't do that on these forms?
These are standardized forms. I'd have to research it.
So maybe when you get your new software, you could design this so we could see, particularly in the issue of when there's a big change, right? And what's driving those changes? Because there's, you say, 4 or 5 categories, and if you solve them, you go, oh, I see what's underneath this category. And you just explained there's some mixtures of different things that have to be under this. which is a bit arcane. It's what's required by the state, but it doesn't necessarily help us understand exactly what's driving the category. Anyway, why don't you look into it maybe for next time? Thanks.
If I may add, just like the capital improvement and the capital expenditures that we have for when we actually constructing stuff, same thing applies in this. You know, it may vary from year to year. So some years we may not have many capital improvements. But like in this particular case, this year, we're looking to doing a lot of plans. Mm-hmm. So you know, that doesn't mean that those services, those professional services costs will be the same next year. You know, this year our focus is like, let's get a plan for Port Doc 7, the marketing plan for NIT. Let's do, so all of those are considered professional services that we'll be hiring, and so when you look at it, it may vary from year to year, just like the capital improvements.
Yeah, and I'm thinking a simple asterisk or numbering there and a separate sheet telling what's in there.
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of a Where's Waldo exercise here, and our eyes always catch things that have big change in them. So it's not critical, you guys. It's just, what's that?
Yeah.
I noticed, we can end on a nice note. You paid that 2013 forklift off. That's great.
Yes, we did. I love to see stuff paid off. And we acquired the 2020 forklift for the commercial marina this year, and we paid it with cash. So we have no debt related to that one.
Excellent.
Which was really nice. Any more questions on the administrative budget? Yes, sir.
Yes, the PERS Walter referred to earlier, I added it up. If I added it up correctly, we're neighborhood of $266,000 for this budget year. And you said it could be going up for a period of time. Do we have an idea of what we're looking at in the future? A significant amount, or do we not really know yet? Is it hard to really predict, or what are we looking at beyond this year?
So I do have and it's all by different type of tiers. And this is, so the OSRP, looking, so it's going to be first of all, tier 1, tier 2 is 19%, goes to 21, then down to 20, then down to 19. So that's what they're predicting, that percentage. 6 point. This one here is, get the right, general service, 15.56% up to 17, then down to 16, 16, and 16. So we do have an idea, but those are projections. They could change as we'll have, we know Kent is planning on retiring. We know that Chris is planning on retiring. So that obviously will change this dramatically, because they're projecting our expenditures for tier 1 and tier 2 into the future. And then we won't have them. So it's going to change the formula altogether.
It's going to go down.
Yeah, everything will drop from, mostly drop from tier 1, tier 2 down to OSRP. And that will change this formula.
Okay. What's our rough healthcare cost per person? Do we have a general ballpark on that?
It's around $990. That's medical and dental, I believe.
Okay, I tried to add up some of the healthcare costs, and I came up with 355,000. Am I way off base, or am I double adding here?
I'm not sure. So I have a a spreadsheet that I use that you put in the numbers and it spits out the numbers. It has your health insurance, it has your taxes, and everything else built into it. And I had someone else audit it last year before we started using it.
Okay. Trying to think, if there's anything else on this page? I don't think there is.
But that numbers, say 1,000, doesn't seems well 100. I'd have to look, Jeff.
Okay.
But
So one thing, this is skill. So one thing that, in terms of rules of thumb on healthcare and PERS, is that it will be some proportion or percentage of their salary, so of their FTE. So that could be a real quick rule of thumb to give you a rough idea, Jeff, of what those costs are. But I know you're trying to break it down between PERS and healthcare. So yeah, good question.
So I just real quickly, I just made some spreadsheets just because I was trying to add this up and get a sense of it. I just emailed you a couple spreadsheets I made just to try to get a handle on it myself, and more out of curiosity. I wonder if I added it up right or was thinking of it right.
I'll be, again, I'm glad to take a look.
Yeah, I mean, I'll obviously not now, we're in a meeting, but I figured I'll still be curious to kind of follow up on that and see if I put those costs in right in the spreadsheet, kind of trying to get a sense of where our costs are.
Yeah, and I know that when I did these calculations, I had estimated, I believe our increase was about 12% for health insurance costs. Most of SDIS customers got a 10.5% increase. We got a 7.6 or 7.9% increase. So our WHA negotiated a smaller increase than the remainder of SDIS, which was good. So this is a little high, but we can adjust it a little bit downwards too.
Okay. Was it 108,000 for South Beach? Did I see that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Jeff asked a question about utilities increasing. When and if we build a new building, I need to have a budget for utilities, and utilities will increase when we get the new facility. That's what that's all about.
Okay, Jeff, you all put to bed?
Yes.
All
Thanks.
right, go for it, Mark.
Good questions. Good questions. Appreciate them. We'll move on to South Beach. Just so I can answer it up front, the professional services are 280,000. South Beach, we're planning on the planning for the reconfiguration of the annex over there, and then Expo Center planning, if we decide to do that. That's what's included in that budget number. I'm looking for anything else that might be big. What you will notice is our permanent staff and wages and salaries did not rise that much. When we looked at what we had last year and looked at what we had this year, we knew what we needed. We knew we had extra built in last year and built it differently this year. And this should be more realistic than what we had last year. We've allocated the insurance. Last year during this budget meeting, someone mentioned that I'd allocated insurance in one spot, but not another. This year, we've allocated the insurances across all the cost centers, so they're spread appropriately.
Can I ask something, Mark?
Of course.
This is Dave Smith. You say your wages didn't go up, which they didn't, but on the overtime on both pages, they almost doubled. I'm curious about that.
You know, I used a calculation based on what we thought we might need. The overtime tends to be overstated in these. So we have overtime for the South Beach, 17,000. That includes the RV park and the operations center. You know, we're running lean and mean in the RV park. And so my staff put in a little more overtime than normal.
Okay,
That's why.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, it's a great question though.
If I may add, maybe not so much in South Beach, but typically in overtimes, often we recoup them, especially on the commercial side, because if we're asking people to do overtime, it's because somebody needs the service, and often we have to, you know, make people work a little bit longer, and then we pay them accordingly, but we charge accordingly to some of those are sort of offset, but we had to, yeah, we didn't have some enough employees in some areas as people left the port, and as we do that, you end up paying people overtime until we can replace them.
That is true. We're doing that right now. I know one employee last week had quite a few hours of overtime because we're running 2 people in the park. When one goes on vacation, you have to somehow cover that time. And that's how we're doing it right now. And we'll see in the future.
Yeah. I had a question.
Yes. Go ahead, Walter.
Oh, Kelly was first.
Oh,
Thanks, Walter.
Mr. Kelly, I'm sorry.
That's right. Well, there was on line 26, there's like a $80,000 increase. So that was just curiosity. Back to the big jumps.
In South Beach?
In South Beach, line 26, it says repair and maintenance 219.
Okay, that's, yeah, repairs and maintenance. Chris had a very specific project in mind when he gave that to me. Let me grab that.
Thanks, Mark.
Just have to open the spreadsheet. It's a different spreadsheet. That is repairs and maintenance. Repairs and maintenance. So need to paint marina office, road distillery building, replace toilets and sinks in the marine restrooms. Need to purchase new fiberglass decking for G-Dock. Start purchasing new whalers and brackets and rods. And that's 150,000 right there.
And whalers and rods are, especially the whalers, are a lot more expensive right now. But those add up real quickly.
Thank you, Mark.
Glad to help. Glad I have my supporting docs.
Maybe if you get your new financial system, you won't have to go from one spreadsheet to another.
That would be ideal. Yes, Walter.
Well, I'll just remind everybody, my first budget, I was getting green and white accordion paper. So this is a big improvement. So let's not forget the past. No, Mike, I was just going to say, you answered my question, Mark. In years past, Chris had started, as part of his budget, buying replacement parts for the recreational docks, and I think we were replacing whalers and rods every year, every other year, going down the marina. So I think that's good, and maybe I'd like to suggest putting some money aside for float replacement too, because they're starting to wear out, and it hasn't been done on many of those docks in many years.
Okay, I'm noting it, Walter, and dollars for in my little book, black book. Yeah, I've seen some of the docks a little angle, but I leave, Aaron will note it so he can budget for future years.
Well, eventually the concept again is to, especially when we get something new, it's to start putting money aside right then, little by little. So when it's time, we can actually replace things as needed, not like we always seem to run into emergencies because all of a sudden something is only going to last another year or two, and then we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it. So, but because we have so many different things that we need to fix that is in the same situation, it's really hard to go back and pick up, but one thing that we will do is with these assessments that we're doing, we will definitely look up and make sure that those things that are going faster, that we take better care of it, or and make better budgets, as not wait a year from it, but maybe 5-10 years and trying to play it with it.
Another point on capital outlays for this year, next year, is we're going to try to add a fillet. I don't think we're going to try to. We're going to do everything we can to add a fillet table to South Beach. We've had a number of complaints related to fillet tables. We added an additional charter vessel, and so we think it's going to be really important this coming year to have another fillet table.
So I was going to ask you about that, because I say, God, that's pretty expensive for a fillet table. So what is it that drives up the cost of fillet tables?
It's the table itself is expensive to begin with. It's they're made of stainless. They're a sizable structure, but they also get plumbed and electrical power run to them as well. So there's excavation that's needed. Usually we gotta where they're at, they're poured into slabs that are existing. So where we want to put a new one, we're gonna have to pull that concrete up, do some excavation, tie into the sewer, tie into the power. So it's a little bit it's a bit of a project. And like I said, the table itself is made of all stainless. They're sizable, and they're expensive in their own right. So, and then the installation of all that stuff on top of all that is basically what it involves.
All right, good explanation, Aaron. Who would have thought? Yeah, thanks.
And Aaron, I would like you to stay on because we'll be going to the commercial marina next.
Mark, I have one question. Have we looked into the R&E grants through ODFW? Because I know we actually had one to replace the table 3-4 years ago, and we did not utilize that. Have we reached out to ODFW, see if that prospect is still there, or if there's still a program that we can get that partially funded by, or even the Marine Board?
You're on mute, Paula.
Yeah, no, I just hit it. I wasn't talking yet. I just was going to talk. Yeah, so we are looking into several things. I talked to the Marine Board. There's also this new program that I said, and as I mentioned, that just opened up today from Travel Oregon, which I'm very surprised where they have getting the money, because they didn't get much hotel tax, but apparently they do have. So we will be, we have several other grants that we've been chasing for other projects, but that is our next thing, is to go after ODFW and Marine Board. And now this one has a very quick sunset. So we'll see about, if we can even squeeze anything in for this Travel Oregon one.
Any more questions? not, we'll move to commercial marina. And the professional services budget there includes money for the feasibility study and money for planning the rebuild of Port Dock 7. Some important projects there are Port Dock 3 and 5 electrical upgrade project. That's something we promised a commercial fishermen and have been increasing rates because of that and set that money aside. And then Paula mentioned it earlier, replacing rods and whalers on 3 and 5 as well. That's a pretty expensive project. What would you like to add to that, Aaron?
Those are really important projects. All of these projects are important in their own way, but anywhere where you see electrical in our and we're wrapping up some electrical projects yet this fiscal year still too, but anywhere we see electrical projects for us, I would place the highest importance on them because of the age of the infrastructure that we have and how critical it is, both from a service standpoint and a safety standpoint. Then we definitely need to undertake those projects. And the feasibility study, we've talked a lot about that. It's extremely important to be able to right size our marina for the next generation of commercial activity that's going to continue coming to Newport, and we'll probably get more business both as a result of the project and in the future. It's gonna continue to grow for us here because of the way that the industry is consolidating. So that's about all I have for those. I could answer any questions.
I have a question. This is Rick, and under miscellaneous expenses, what are you anticipating for that 200,000?
Okay, let's take a look. Commercial marina, MISC expenses. Other, which one is that? I know we had boat disposal.
Line 30.
Yeah, I have a different spreadsheet that I'm looking at, and other. That's not it there. Disposal 201,000. That is the magical question the one question I don't have the answer to at this point. I will have to research that one because I honestly, it's been a while since I worked on this.
Would that have anything to do with derelict vessels, Mark?
It's going, you have boat seizures at 30,000, but you have the MISC expenses at 201 because we are just,
Where did we put the oil tank?
there's a 86,000 in capital, oil building upgrades.
Yeah, that's on line 42.
There's boat disposal.
Oh, yeah, so that is there.
Boat
Okay.
disposal's right before it, so it wouldn't be miscellaneous, or it wouldn't be derelicts, I don't think.
I bet I know what it is. Let me look here. Where's it at?
Thank you.
That is, because I don't have any notes on that $201,000 anywhere.
I'm sure if Kent is listening, he's probably itching to say for what it is because he would know.
I'm sure I know it was something Kent gave me and it didn't fit into any other category, so that's where we had to put it. Unfortunately, I didn't make notes on that particular one. LB forms. I'm looking at other.
Yeah, and he had, because the list that he gave us was a litany of dock projects, but we've already accounted for most of those elsewhere in here. I think there were some dock projects we talked about possibly adding on to the building over there, but that's not anywhere. I mean, these are small. Those were all small expenses that I recall.
Yeah. And this is under MISC expenses under, oh, that's its own category. Because typically we haven't had that many. So I'm unsure what that is for. I'd have to research that, and I apologize. I should know that.
I can find it, but it'll take me a little while here too, so.
Yeah. Budget. I'm gonna look at one other thing. Finance. Budget. Kent. Seeing if because we didn't do that one. I'm still looking in my budget information. Okay, so I have to check here. Or MLA, water, Gibson, storm damage. I don't find it at a quick glance what it would be.
It could be because we need to do something with Captain Rio, the 343 property.
Yeah,
And that probably would fall miscellaneous.
that would fall in MISC.
Miscellaneous gets you every time, doesn't it?
It does get us every time.
Next time, anytime we don't have the specifics, we probably should bring in a cheat sheet on the side.
Yeah, I will have, and
That will make it
have
easy.
have my cheat sheet, but it's not. It doesn't tell me what it is because it's total MISC. So
So are we able to proceed with this being ambiguous?
I think we better, right?
yeah, it's. I will have to research, but I'm sure something Kent gave me. I just have to find it.
I think Paula's along the right track, Mark, because especially lease properties. Sometimes we group them in kind of weird in how we budget for things. So, Captain's Reel it wasn't its own 343 wasn't its own place, so it may have been something having to do with that, or maybe no, because it's all commercial marina. It's got to be something associated with the commercial marina.
Well, this would be anything on the north side goes in the commercial budget.
That would be commercial marina.
Port Dock 1 would be another one. Anything having to do with that.
Yeah.
It could be just general maintenance for mixed with everything. It just hype because you've got to, I think we're trying not to do what we did last year with the oil tank and not have the money for unexpected stuff like that. So, but yeah, 343.
Rex, are you happy if they get back to you? Because speculating isn't going to do us any good.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. I can absolutely get back to you.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks for taking the time.
Just one other comment, right? Because it's in miscellaneous expenses, and as you note for previous years, those were almost zero. And so it's startling to see such a large number in a category like miscellaneous as compared to just stating what it is, right? So is it 30 items that just add up to miscellaneous, or is it really one or two big items? And therefore you'd expect them to have their own name and category, right? To
And
show what it is.
yeah, these are categories pretty much set out in our accounting system. But typically you're correct, put them in a category that they belong. So it had to be something. I just, off the top of my head, I just don't know.
Yeah, we can move on and then see the next round of budget when you get it figured out.
But you'll notify all of us, not just Rex.
Correct.
Thank you.
I do agree with Paula, though. I mean, because there's nothing in here for that building that I've seen yet. So we're gonna need money for that. So at least maybe be able to put some, projects to it. But I do know we're gonna need money for that. And we did have expenditures come up that we did, extra things that broke that needed money, and there wasn't that put aside for it. So anyway, so I do agree with Paula on that.
But I'll research it. Any other questions on commercial? Okay, if not, we'll move on to international terminal, professional services.
On this one, Mark, you'll see in their NIT grade 9 acres, that'll be contingent upon how the Corps decides to rule on the wetlands. Once again, using the new WOTUS rules, we're trying to be able to get that 9 acres, if nothing else, into a state where we can maintain it and prevent any sort of further growth of wetlands or excessive pooling of water, creating drainage issues for our neighbors and things like that. But what we hope to be able to do is at least get it to the point where we can level it out and keep it mowed. But I don't know if that's going to come to pass yet. And that number is a pretty sound number. It's based on previous quotes or estimates that we had on what it would take to level it out.
And
For line 34, was that a purposeful omission, or should there be a number in there?
that is purposeful because we're supposed to do that asphalt this year.
Okay, thank you.
But I have to include anytime in the last 3 years that I've had an expenditure, I have to include it there. So you see historical.
Question for Aaron. Have they already designated that property, Aaron, as wetland?
Previously it was. Last year there was a change in the federal rules for those designations, so we resubmitted all that information to get a new ruling on it.
Okay, thank you.
You probably ought to just give us the narrative on line 22.
I think I was looking at that saying that's going to be next. Budget forms, budget document, line 22. And that is contract and support services. Oh, I already know what that is.
Good.
Aaron, you want to explain the piling, dredge spoils and piling?
So the This is the result of us having stockpiled dredge material there over the years. If you go out there and you look, there will be a large pile of material on Ronda's property, basically in line with the western edge of McLean Point, right next to the road. That is material that's not buildable, that we are responsible to take off of the property prior to the end of the lease. So we may not necessarily be required to move it this year, but we wanted to put it in there for numerous reasons. If we find an opportunity to get it moved this year, usually prices for transportation and things like that go up as time goes on. So the sooner you get it done, the cheaper it'll be. But it's a large stockpile of material that we need to remove out there. It's not used for structural. It can't be used for structural fill.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A question. So is the city, are we not doing that switch out with the city anymore because of the cost of trucking?
The state of that agreement, the agreement's still in place. But it's a matter of whether or not they're going to be using material themselves this coming year. So we haven't heard really anything from them on that front, but we can still move it out we can move it out to the airport under that agreement still. It's just a matter of the transportation cost.
Yeah, the transportation cost is the big ticket item you see there. It's not really where we deposit. It's more to do with transportation.
Yeah, it's not the material itself.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure we were, yeah, thanks.
And so professional services, consulting on use of facilities, and we have in our contract mutual beneficial project at McLean Point for $50,000. So I've included those in professional services.
And that mutually beneficial project is supposed to take place within 5 years of when that agreement was signed. And I think we're probably coming up on year 3, if I remember right. So it doesn't necessarily have to take place this year, but it's in the budget.
Other questions on NIT, International Terminal? Okay, then we will move to NOAA Lease Revenue Fund. And
Mark, since
Yes.
we were talking about the dredging, doing the dredging or not dredging, but moving the material. Don't know, 87,000 of that, is that considered in part of the contact and support services?
Yes, we have, because some of that fill material was from the NOAA dredging, we've allocated the budgets between the two. And so there is there's a portion of that contract and support services that is NOAA dredging.
Okay, I think it was 87,500 on it.
That is correct. And the big ticket item, I would like Aaron to really discuss. I know enough to get myself in trouble with, which is the dredging.
Yeah, we budgeted, this number was, we tried to come up with a worst case scenario here. So it may not come out to be this much. And I just about 30 minutes before this meeting started, I finally got the figures for what the dredge prism would look like this year. And it looks really good. So far, the numbers that I looked at just before the meeting started was that including the overdredge amount, we're only looking at like 8,000 cubic yards. The last time we dredged 9,900 cubic yards, and that was a light year. So we may not necessarily, the berths are looking pretty good. We still have to talk about this some more, and talk it over with Noah this year. But we may not necessarily have to dredge this year, depending on how that shakes out in the end. And you can't get this information any sooner, because we have to kind of wait through the winter to see what all the year's rains and all the sediment that comes down the river is going to do. So this is about as early as we can know this information, but it's still not certain. However, I'm 98% sure that we're not going to go over $750,000. That also includes preparation on the pile. We sold a lot of sand this year, probably certainly more than we have in a single year in recent memory. And so the pile needs to be reconfigured to once again get shaped like a settling pond. So that'll be part of the dredge project as well. Something that we could consider doing with this is if it turns out we don't have to dredge this year at the end of this, and we still have this large amount budgeted for, we could do some work on the pile to make it so that some more usable material is easier to find and more accessible, and we can continue selling more sand, which wouldn't be a bad thing, because we can take the pile down as pretty much as low as it is flush to the ground if we really needed to, because you could still build a settling pond by going beneath the grade. And I've talked about that with a number of different contractors. So that's what that figure is in a nutshell.
Other questions on NOAA?
Yeah, Jeff's got something for you.
Yeah,
My sheet's up, so sorry.
yeah, boy, that's really good news, isn't it? I mean, to
Yeah, but
potentially-
I'm always cautious about good news. I don't really want to get everybody's hope. I'd prefer to under promise and over deliver. So I just got the numbers right before the meeting started, and that's what I got. But we'll certainly know here in the next month whether or not we're going to need to dredge for sure. The only thing I can say for certain this evening is we're not going to go over that amount.
do I recall that the last time there was dredging, that there was a different strategy used to try to grow, to be able to go longer intervals between dredging? Am I recalling that correctly?
Yeah, that's right. We used a cutter head instead of a toyo pump. In previous years, they've always used a toyo pump, and the cutter head dredge allowed us to get down a little bit deeper, closer to what its design depth was. I'm not an engineer. I can't really say for certain what, because it changes every year. The river has a natural meander to it that changes over time, and hard to say what exactly causes it to be faster in accumulation some years more than others, but it seems like it's done well for us.
The only bad news about the possible good news, Jeff, is that we can't really use those monies that we save on something else. So, oh well. Maybe we'll catch up eventually, but.
But if the trend, if it was a trend that we established that stays, it's good on a number of fronts. One of them being that, all the costs it takes for us to get permits to dredge, that cost is not inconsiderable. So we will save that if we don't have to go get permits constantly, which we're planning. This year, our plan was to go and do an individual consultation anyway. The Corps had recommended that we do that, which means that we would go back and get a permit that's going to last us for about 10 years. And we're not going to have to constantly reapply for permits. And then it'll just allow us to do maintenance dredging down to that certain depth that it's designed for. And then we just keep it up. In years past, we've been using slopes, which is a standard. Boy, I can't remember what it stands for now. But anyway, it's a standard sort of gambit for permitting that we would fit into. You use a faster permitting process, and we would do it every year. But now the idea is we do a little bit more in-depth consultation. We already have all the information we need to do it, and then we'll get the permits ironed out for about a decade or so.
Thank you.
Other questions on the NOAA lease? If not, we'll move to the bonded debt fund. The one thing, you'll see all the payments listed there. What you're going to see on line 35 is the unappropriated balance. That is the amount that we pay July 1st of next year before property taxes come due and payable. So I have to have money set aside for next year's payment. Does that make sense? And that is, that is really it, because we'll move really into the projects list after that.
Great, thanks, Mark. It looks like, Paula, are you up for this? Yeah. Major projects overview.
We didn't do this with the budget committee, but we did meet with the commission, kind of went over some of the major projects we have. As Aaron indicated here, we may need to move all these dredge spoils because we have a lease agreement that requires to do so. And it's a matter of, we may not end up, if we find somebody that is interested on the spoils and it can do the transportation, that may save us a lot of money, but we can't count on it. We have to make sure we budget in the event that we don't, and we have to really, so we've been looking, or Aaron has been looking into few alternatives out there, so we'll see. As we talk already about it, also the Port Dock 3 and 5 electrical upgrade. We're just completing engineering this year. Likewise, the Port Docks, well, I guess we did put this under all projects, the Port Dock 7 replacement plan. So we are really trying to get some grants for this, especially after tipping another 66 feet of our dock. And it seems like it keep doing that every year. It's very important for us. I'm working on a grant for EDA, got a lot of letters of support, at least about 10 letters of support from all over. And we should be sending that out here pretty soon. Again, the feasibility study for dredging may actually happen this year versus next, but just Mark, did we end up including still? I think we kept it right on for next year. You on mute.
Yep. The what again?
The feasibility study for the dredging. We still kept it on our capital project.
It's still on our list. Although we got some news that we'll probably end up doing that before year's end.
Right. So it seems like we may end up getting the contract here in April from the Army Corps. And usually as we sign the contract, I believe we have 15 days to make a payment. So if that happens, we do have it on this year's budget anyway. So this may happen earlier. So we talk about the software for accounting that we really could use. I'm still working with the Rondas on purchasing the little piece of property where the electrical shed is over there. We had so many other projects that I haven't gotten to it. I may still try to finalize that before July 1st, but we got to get a surveyor there to separate the property. I just talked recently with him about it. So it just in case it falls right a bit between this fiscal year, next fiscal years is there again. And we gotta replace some pilings at Port Dock 3. It's very self-explanatory there. So relocate electrical hoist dock. It's a small project considering. And the South Beach service dock. This is a big ticket item, but it's something that has been needed to be done. And Chris has been talking about doing this there for a while. And not only needs to be done, but it will also give us additional space for more vessels, especially nowadays we keep getting more charter folks out there. So again, we're trying to do this assessment condition for all of our properties. So instead of spending $1 million and doing everything, because it really can be very costly, we're starting in different areas of the port. So every year we're gonna try to do some areas and then rotate, and then probably another 5 years we'll do that, depending what needs to be done on that area. So this year we just put 60,000 there just to get started. Most likely what we'll do is start on the commercial marina, especially at Port Dock 7, just to understand where, what are our chances of still surviving for another 3-4 years before that thing get rebuilt, and so on. We talk about the fillet table. It seems expensive, but Aaron explained why it's so expensive. Again, all the whalers and rods, and that needs to be replaced there. The south, actually, this one is the commercial marina. Also needs to be done at Port Dock 3 and 5. We also talk about the tank upgrade. We had a few choices. We had a choice of going big and doing a bigger replacement, or just trying to do the small replacement at this point, with the concept, if we do have the upgrade on Port Dock 7, in other words, we do the replacement for the dock, we can, we most likely would like to move the oil tanks collection near the dock at that point. So we're just going to try to do this for now until we get the plan in place. So we're hoping to include in our plan what to do with this oil tank as well. And then we need some tractors, and I guess we didn't put anything in the road seawall because we don't know what the outcome will be yet. So most likely what we end up doing is on the 22-23 budget, we're probably going to have another item there for the rogue seawall. Now, if that's going to be a small item or a bigger item for an actual repair, we don't know yet. It could be more inspections depending on what we choose to do. But at this point, we just decided to leave blank in case you're wondering. Again, we talk about the redesigning the RV annex. We also talk about purchasing that property next to Rogue. We have been trying to do some computer replacements because all of our computers were old and needed to to be replaced. So there's a forklift. We also need a commercial marina. And we're still debating here on this pickup, if we're gonna get a pickup or if we gonna use this money instead, maybe to add to the commercial office to give them more space. if we can make it, the vehicle lasts a little longer, that what we may end up doing with that. We'll bring it to you if that's what we decide to do. Again, the hoist dock fenders for commercial. There are a lot of not, I wouldn't say upgrade, but a lot of work needed at all the docks, really, both South Beach and commercial. So again, the Newport headquarters is still in a limbo right now. We're still waiting for the consultant to come up with another estimate for us. The first one we looked, it came definitely a little bit higher than we can possibly afford. We cut a whole bunch of things out, made the building a little bit simpler. Still pretty nice building. The size of the building is still the same. We just didn't do the upgrades, and we're still waiting. We heard the reason for the cost is its materials, and I believe the issue, it's not so much inflation, but is more to do with COVID has really made difficult for manufacturing in general throughout all the countries that manufacture something, and export, import. I mean, I know the ports that I spoke to in general, they are hurting for cargo. So that means, there are not much movement of materials in general. So at this point, we from what I have seen, and I believe Mark did some research too, I don't think price is gonna come down anytime soon, but there are discussions of inflation going back up a little bit. So you got to really balance out, should we wait for materials to come down and then inflation goes up? And so I don't know. I think eventually the problem is the new code requirements keep getting harder. That means there are more things to do. And at least talking to the contractor and to the architect, that's what they said. It's like the code requirements have really driven prices of construction of buildings way up. So it is something to take into consideration. Hopefully we'll be able to, what we're trying to do is see if we can get this price to come down at least to a couple $1 million, and then we're still going to have to furnish the building, but we'll see what we can bring to you, and it's your decision if you want us to move forward. But certainly we miss not having that building every day, staff wise. Do you have anything to add to that, Mark?
Yeah, it's about a 1. If interest rates go up 1.7%, 1.69 something, it's worth building it now. And also on the 201,000, I was researching it when I went offline. It is for 343 Bay Boulevard. It
is, yeah. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was on the right track. So and then we did put it back here, this expo center, and this is again, it's going to be just some sort of plan to see if it's even worth, cost. You're going to be looking also at benefit and cost analysis, and where you get, we're going to have users to use the building. If we do, what kind of building, so on and so forth. There are some grants out there. This one just came up today from Trevor, Oregon. We may put that out there and see if it is something that we can at least see if it's feasible. The original idea was for the Seafood and Wine Festival. Obviously, that didn't happen the way it normally does, although they did quite well virtually. But next year, they really want to see that Seafood and Wine back and going. So we'll look at it. Again, these folks are spending $180,000 a year on tents, and so it's just like, why can we have a bit more permanent location right there? So that's something we're looking at it. And then the NOAA funds, those are pretty much things that we have it in our lease agreement that we have to do. Some every year, some every so many years. So we do have that listed here. And any questions? Or any additions, Mark?
No additions, just that we found that money in the project. It looks like Gil has something.
Yeah, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. So when we see this column 4 and there's a number, an amount there, it's in the budget, right? Correct? So somewhere it's in the budget for that item.
That is correct.
Right. So it might be good, again, Mark, in the future, next time we do this, is to asterisk those or code them out. So when we see that item in the budget, we can link it to the fact that it's associated with a project that's been already discussed and planned for. And that would help, I think, everyone understand why all of a sudden there's a larger item somewhere is associated with a new project that's being implemented and planned for.
May or may not be implemented, right?
Or may not be obvious.
And it is important to note the 2 asterisks on the bottom, that the priority doesn't indicate order, just that it's the priority importance. So we may not do them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 order, but it's a higher importance to the port with a 1 than a 7.
And that is especially for the fact that sometimes an item that may be in the last place there may find a home with a grant that we just happen to have the opportunity to apply, while some items that may be in the middle may not happen because we may not get a grant that we're expecting. So, but we really try to, as much as we can, to get at least the first few items on the list completed, because those are extremely important.
Scheduling of bids is another one. It's another factor in how you can, for example, with our electrical upgrade at Port Docks 3 and 5, I'd like to be able to get that done this fall, just before crabs, in the downtime around October or so, or September when it's not quite as busy. But if I can't get this project out to bid, and or if we put it out to bid and it's contingent upon funding approval, and I don't get enough interest in it, we may have to wait until springtime to do that job, just because of the operational pace of the marina. So that's another factor in when we actually get the projects done.
Yeah, Port Dock 5 took, 2.5 years to get going? 3 years?
All right. Any concluding comments? Oh, Jeff, you got something?
Yeah, so just to confirm, the only new loan this current fiscal year was the 700,000. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. And the first payment on that $700,000 loan takes place next fiscal year. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's why that is correct.
Okay. And
unless we build the building, administration building, so then it will be another loan for that.
Yeah, but the only one in this current fiscal year that we're in is the 700,000. That's made in this current fiscal year, right? Not next fiscal year.
That will be made in this fiscal year. They're getting ready to start on the project, and then next fiscal year we'll begin paying the loan back.
Okay. And the only loan in this upcoming fiscal budget, the budget we're looking at now, is the administration building. That's the only loan we anticipate this coming fiscal year. That's correct?
I'm validating that. Yes, that is correct.
I believe so. I haven't been talking to anyone on another loan, so.
I was thinking, so I just wanted to confirm that.
I am talking to Business Oregon with about a lot of grants. We actually may get a grant for the remainder again of the seawall, which actually will still be on the hook for a couple $1,000 because the county amount is not quite 20%. But yeah, that's anyway.
Well, the federal government's talking about a big infrastructure bill, and hey, we got infrastructure. So
Problem is we have infrastructure, but we don't have the plans for the infrastructure. I believe me, I wish we have all those plans, because right now they are trying to put out for a lot of infrastructure funds, but you have to be ready for them.
Yep.
we just need a lobbyist to, we just need a lobbyist to write a little shortcut in the bill, in the back rooms.
Well, the reason they do that is because a lot of times people in the past, people have put in for a grant, and then when it comes time to fund, they're not ready to build. They just not ready because they don't have all their plans. They don't have their permits. Sometimes they don't even have the real estate to put the infrastructure on it, which sometimes they depend, so it happens quite often. I know that because I work on a lot of Connect Oregon grants, and they constantly had millions of dollars being returned back to the pot because people would put in for it and they weren't ready. And so they stop funding projects that didn't already have the permits and everything in place and ready to go.
All right, did we conclude, and were those the concluding comments, or are there additional concluding comments?
It is for me.
I'm taking that as concluding comments. All right, so who reads public comment? Do we have any? Karen, do we have any public comment?
We did not have any, Mark.
Submitted online
Okay.
through our website.
All right, and we don't have any. You checked?
No.
Karen, we have one public comment.
Not during the deadline time for the public comment.
Oh, it was after.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, so Walter, would you like to make a motion? Wait, unmute yourself before you make the motion.
I'm looking, what is it on? Was it page on 4?
That's, oh gosh, I think it's at the very end.
Read on.
Last page.
Last page.
Ample motion, page 39, all the way to the bottom.
All right, 39.
Slam that baby all the way down.
All right. All right. I move that the Budget Committee of the Port of Newport approve the budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022 in the amount of $23,784,178.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Second.
Hold on, Walter, sound wasn't coming through until the very end of that.
Oh, okay.
For me.
Okay, I will restate my motion. I move that the Budget Committee of the Port of Newport approve the budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022 in the amount of $784,178.
And Jeff seconds,
Second.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Sounds like the motion carries.
So that means we don't need the next meeting?
Do we need to approve this tax levy here?
Oh, sorry, go for it.
Jim, would you like to do this?
Sure, I'd love to. I move that the Budget Committee of the Port of Newport approve property taxes for the fiscal year July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022 at the rate of 0.0609 per 1,000th of assessed value for the permanent rate tax levy, and in the amount of $995,000 for the general obligation bond levy.
I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Feel like there needs to be a lovely closing statement, but in lieu of the lovely closing statement, we are adjourned.